You are now listening to The Box Out, tri-state area basketball talk at its best. And now your hosts, Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Let's get it. Let's get it.
From NJ to BK and the world, this is The Box Out on a Thursday, March 25th, 2021. Kahlil Thomas joining me as always, Jason Cordner. Jay, we didn't get to say what's up. What's going on?
What's going on, man? Everything good?
Everything is good. Everything's good. My daughter got a fever. She had a fever a couple of days. So it's like 1-year-old with a fever, the neediest little person you'll ever meet by far. Today was crazy. I was talking to Justin Henry, Just Hoop Talk, through text, and he's like, "You guys got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot to talk about." Today was the NBA trade deadline at 3 p.m., and I think we should start with the two guys who didn't actually get traded: Kyle Lowry, Lonzo Ball. Well, Lowry, apparently the report was that Masai Ujiri didn't get an offer that he liked, and so Lowry's going to kind of ride the year out with Toronto and Tampa. Still don't make no sense to me. If you were a GM, I'll talk this GM talk with you because you're really good at this. What's the right trade value for someone like a Kyle Lowry?
First of all, what makes this situation even more intriguing is the two GMs involved. Like, they're both master manipulators, and it seems like neither one wanted to budge. And I kind of give the edge to Messiah because there really wasn't a package for him. Like, maybe Miami, but then they did what they did. And the Lakers were pretty much desperate. I couldn't believe like he was even considering the Lakers. But I wouldn't want Schroeder. If I'm going to rebuild, if we're going to totally rebuild in Toronto, I wouldn't want Schroeder. So I think the Philly offer, and we said it before, it's the same reason they didn't get Harden. Something about what he wants to give up over there in Philly is just not appealing to other GMs. So that's why I like the stalemate a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like in Philly, you would have to give up either. Is that a cat? Was that a cat?
Yeah.
Yo, wait, real fast. I never sidebar. Is it me or is like the hardest job to do in the world is cleaning a litter box?
It is.
Okay, because we have a cat. I say we. It's my wife's cat, ain't my cat. I don't like cats. But I find myself huffing and puffing, inhaling it, and you putting it in the little kitty thing, putting all the dirty litter. It's I hate cleaning the litter box. It's the worst experience I ever had. Sidebar. I don't know why we got there. I feel like if you're Philly, you're going to try to not trade Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, right? That's your goal. Keep those two guys. But besides those two guys, what else do you really have to offer? I think that's what teams are like, listen, you really don't have anything else. You literally have Embiid and Simmons, and that's it. So you have to give up one of those guys if you're going to make this deal. And they don't want to. And I feel like that's why nobody wants to trade with Philly, because other than those two guys, who do you have worth trading for in the Sixers?
Not much. And at this point, I don't even think Toronto wanted draft picks. They just wanted some young assets.
I think I feel like they're probably going to try to either, hopefully, maybe, build around Pascal Siakam, I would assume.
That seems like the plan.
But like you said, they want picks or they want young players, i.e., Embiid or Simmons. The Lonzo Ball not getting traded was shocking. We talked about this on Saturday, how his name was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like a lot of teams really wanted to get him. And New Orleans didn't pull the trigger. Now, I will say this. I want to get your input because you were like, he's a good player. And I'm not going to lie. I've ignored Lonzo Ball over the last 2-3 years. Since you said that the other night, I've kind of paid more attention and watched him on TV, and not just watch Zion, not just watch Brandon Ingram, but watch him. His shot got better. I feel like that little hitch he had when he came out of UCLA is gone.
Yep.
His court vision, I feel like there's an air of confidence that he has now that he didn't have in LA, which even makes it even more shocking that he's still with the Pelicans.
I guess that's another situation where, like, shout out to my Knicks. They didn't dumb it down and like give up a bunch of assets, just to get a rental in Lonzo when you could try to get him in off season. So I feel like a lot of teams that probably was going to deal with the Pelicans felt the same way. Like, hey, listen, we know he's not even coming back to New Orleans next year, so we're not giving you multiple picks and a couple of young assets. So that's the only reason why he didn't move. Isn't it ironic how a team like the Lakers could have used him right now?
Mm-hmm. And well, listen, we will talk about the Lakers later, but they need something. They need a lot on that team because they're terrible without AD and LeBron. It's embarrassing how bad they really are.
It's going to be a tough 2 weeks.
Hopefully 2 weeks, because like LeBron's beat up, and I know a buddy of mine. We're talking about LeBron a little bit. My buddy was like, "Whoa, it was a freak injury that LeBron suffered." But I feel like there's more to that than just the freak part of it. I want to go over some of the trades first. I'm going to start with the latest trade that happened at 3:29. I was announced at 3:29. The trade deadline was at 3:00. New Orleans sent in J.J. Redick and Nicolo Melli to Dallas for James Johnson, Weston Wandu, and a 2021 second-round draft pick. This is big for Dallas because they let Steph Curry, the less talented brother Steph Curry, go to Philly. Now Luka has a shooter in J.J. Redick, which I think makes Dallas extremely dangerous down the stretch.
Oh, I absolutely agree to you. See, this is why it's going to be murky waters for the Lakers, because as they embark on this no AD, no LeBron, a team like Dallas could pass them now. Like, like this could get real ugly real quick. So I think Dallas having a shooter to go along with Porzingis, who's playing a little bit better as well. I think now Dallas is a sneaky 5th, 6th seed in the West right now. So this is where it becomes trouble for a team like the Lakers, who's trending in the wrong direction.
We have a Boston trade. Boston sends Daniel Theis to Chicago in exchange for Mo Wagner. The Celtics also picked up, and I want to look at it. I have all these papers in front of me. I'm trying to figure it out. Evan Fournier for 2 second-round draft picks from Orlando. What's about Orlando? Because Orlando just said, you know what?
Orlando
fuck
said,
it.
That's it.
Fuck it. We're done.
Everybody else is open for business in Florida except for the Orlando man.
Except Orlando. Orlando's like, we don't want the business. Take it. We don't want it. So they got Mo Wagner, and they got Evan Fournier. Listening to Bill Simmons this week, and Bill Simmons made a good point. He didn't want to use the word soft, but Boston feels soft. And he compared it to that team with Jay Crowder, Marcus Smart. I think it was one of the Morris brothers. I think it was Marcus Morris.
Marcus. Mm-hmm.
All right. And that was the team that got to the Eastern Conference Finals, almost got to the finals.
Game 7.
And had some dogs. They had some dogs in the team. I think he made a good point, Bill Simmons. They do seem a little soft. And I feel like, Mo Wagner and Evan Fournier is not going to bring that toughness that they really desperately need right now in Boston.
I totally agree. They kind of have that Toronto before Kawhi got their feel to them. Like, they're good enough to compete, but now in all of a sudden loaded Eastern Conference, I don't see them making much noise. Even though I think the pickups today kind of help, because for all intents and purposes, Fournier kind of is like a poor man's Gorham Hayward. So like you kind of get a little bit of that scoring back, but it's still limited. So I definitely think you can still push Boston around, and that's what we're going to find out coming up in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I just don't see. I feel like Danny Ainge again, and we talk about him. I feel like every other week now. He's disappointing.
He's a hoarder.
He should be on A&E on that show, just hoarding draft picks. He'd be draft picks all around his house right now because he gave up 2 second-round draft picks. He has first in his back pocket. You obviously see this team sinking, and they're drowning, and you're not making a move. It boggles the mind how Danny Ainge can be this blind to not see. We have to make a drastic move to compete. They're slowly slipping. And listen, they're a middle of the conference team right now. They're not going to compete for the Eastern Conference crown. They're not. They're not good. You have Jason Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown. That's it. So I feel like Danny Ainge is doing a major disservice to all those Boston fans by not even working for him right now.
Yeah, he's doing a piss poor job surrounding those 2 all-stars with talent.
The big trade today, and this is the one that hurts me because I was hoping that the Knicks may pull this trigger. I'm kind of happy they didn't. Oladipo going from Houston to Miami for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a 2022 first-round swap. It's Miami. They're playing better. And they made this trade, and they were able to keep Duncan Robinson, and they were able to keep Tyler Hero.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave up Avery Bradley, which is whatever, and Kelly Olynyk, who just got some playing time this year because everybody was hurt. I almost forgot he was on the team. This was a steal for Miami, and especially you get an Oladipo, who final year of his contract, 20 points a game, easy, and you put him with Jimmy Butler. This is dangerous.
It is. It also tells me two things. One, that the market for Victor services, it was very limited. And two, I think he's going to be signed with the Heat this summer. I think he's off the board already.
Well, they made a point. I'm trying to find the actual point. I think Adrian Wojnarowski mentioned how if they're able to re-sign Oladipo, they'll have enough money to keep Dragic.
See?
So it makes sense if you're able to keep Oladipo. If Oladipo performs, we gotta keep that in mind too. You can keep Dragic and kind of keep the same team intact because you're not really paying Hero. You're not paying Duncan Robinson. You're not really paying a lot of money to a lot of guys. So I don't think Bam Adebayo is up yet.
Not yet.
I think that's the year after.
Yeah, yep.
So I think you can kind of keep this team together for 2, maybe 3 years, and you can kind of go on a run and have kind of a couple-year window in Miami.
You know what I'm going to say right now, right?
Oh, God, what?
The Heat are better than the Milwaukee Bucks right now. In a best-of-7 series, the Miami Heat will beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Mark my words. Write it down.
I would. Okay, here's my question. Right now in the Eastern Conference, after all these trades, who's the favorite coming out of the East? Because I feel like Miami stepped up. Brooklyn was that top line, right?
I think the Lions got closer now.
Right, so I think Brooklyn is still the favorite, but I feel like Miami definitely stepped it up a little bit. We're going to talk about Chicago. I think Chicago, I'm not going to say they won the East, but I think the move Chicago made today might have moved them up a little bit to where they can get a 5, maybe even a 4 seed in the East right now. So is Brooklyn set number 1? I think Miami could be a 1B right now.
I'll say this. Miami, the Nets are number 1, and then if they're right there with Philadelphia, and I'm going to put them ahead of Philly because they have that playoff pedigree already, and now you're bringing in a dog like Victor into that mix.
Joe Keating, 8:12 p.m. March 25th, marked it. So he has to have my paper right now.
Absolutely.
So the Raptors traded Terrence Davis to Sacramento for a second-round pick. Rajon Rondo, the big signing that the Hawks made in their spending spree, he's going to the Clippers in exchange for Lou Williams and 2 future second-round picks. Rajon Rondo was a non-factor in Atlanta completely. Just not even there.
It was a money grab. He went there for the money.
And you could tell because it didn't fit. First of all, I still have an issue. Nate McMillan, 8-1 since taking over as coach of the team. I think a lot of people are giving Nate McMillan a lot of credit. And I feel like people aren't really realizing that, you know what? This is the shitty part of the schedule. So they're 8-1 at a really good point of their schedule where they let the other coach go, another brother who, loses his job, before he could really get that team together. And like you said, it was a money grab. A lot of those players like him, Gallinari, he's just starting to kind of hit shots now, but he really didn't fit. I feel like they got all these players just to make a splash, and none of them really fit what they were doing.
Yeah, that's the management part of what happened over there. But real quick about Atlanta, Lou Williams better get a hero's welcome when he returns to Magic City as a Atlanta Hawk. Lemon Pepper Lou is back in the A. He better get a hero's welcome. But real quick about the Clippers, I think Rondo is the perfect point guard to really challenge Paul George and Kawhi, especially if they get lackadaisical in the second half, and it'll save them from the collapse. Even though with the addition of Rondo, I still don't see the Clippers make it to the Western Conference Finals.
No, I feel like you said challenge. And I think it's either going to be a good thing,
right,
or a bad thing. I feel like either he's going to challenge him where they're going to, especially not so much Kawhi. Paul George is the one who needs challenging. Paul George is the one who needs that kick in the ass. Now, will he take that kick in the ass correctly? That's the other question. Because Rondo, he could either be a hella good teammate or he could be a pain in the ass. it could go either way. So I feel like the Clippers are kind of taking a risk and saying Rondo's going to bring this all together, and it's going to be a crapshoot based on him and based on PG.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
The Utah Jazz acquired a Matt Thomas, who I don't know, but apparently he's a really good 3-point shooter, 41%. So now Utah gets another 3-point shooter on the team. So that's going to be interesting. Toronto, Norman Powell to Portland in exchange for Gary Trent and Rodney Hood. So Toronto started early in the day and didn't actually finish anything. The Sixers acquired George Hill. This is the trade I want to talk about. OKC gets George Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Ignas Brazdeikis from the Knicks. Right? The Thunder gets Austin Rivers, Tony Bradley, and the 2025-2026 second round draft picks from the Sixers. And the Knicks get Terrence Ferguson. I don't know what George Hill has left in the tank. I don't know if this is a good move for Philadelphia at all. I'm just happy, one, that Austin Rivers is going to get to play because I fell in love with Austin Rivers this year when he's the Knicks. And the Knicks didn't go nuts today because the Drummond thing was kind of in my head all day. I'm like, they're going to pull that trigger. Or they're going to be like, we're going to go all in and trade like quickly today. Because they have a history of doing dumb shit like that, and you're just waiting for it, and they didn't. Terrence Ferguson is going to be at the end of the bench, handing out Gatorade to Quickly and Randall and the rest of them. I'm happy that they stayed pat because it was a scary thought I had this morning, probably about 3:30 in the morning when my fire alarm went off in my house. The Knicks might mess this up and might say, "Hey, push our chips to the end of the table and blow it all up." So I'm very happy they didn't do that.
I'm very happy they didn't do it. We have grown-ups running the Knicks, not owning the Knicks, but running the Knicks. So I'm good to see that they didn't panic. I say let these guys ride it out. You're playing with house money. You got cap space. Build the culture up like we've been preaching from the beginning of the season, and they'll be fine. They'll be fine. I think not trading for Ball now was a blessing in disguise. Get him in the offseason if he really wants to come to New York or anyone else. Matter of fact. Keep your cap space and do it the right way.
Well, here's the thing with Ball, and we mentioned it on Saturday's show. Mm-hmm. The market's going to be 15 to 18 million for Lonzo Ball. I don't want no part of that. If we can get that price down to, it's free agency 10, 12 at the most. If you're asking for 15 to 18, I'm not making that deal. I'm not signing you. So I feel like everyone's going to wait to see what the market, because Lonzo has something. He has something. We talk about on Saturday. There's not a lot of pass first point guards in the league anymore.
Right.
His shot's gotten better, although his movement and off the ball is awful. It's gotten better. But is he $18 million better? I don't think he is. And I feel like a lot of teams, that market may not be as big as him or his team think it is for him in the offseason.
And that's why Knicks being in the back pocket I can see the Knicks I can see him going to the Knicks on a $15 million contract per year. I can see that.
That's still too much. That's a scary contract for me. For Lonzo Ball, you're going to pay 15 million?
I think so. He serves what the Knicks need. They need a true point guard.
And you say that. Can Quickly become a point guard? Because I feel like he's not a real point guard. Can Quickly become that point, or is it he's a 2? He's just an undersized 2.
He's undersized 2.
He's undersized 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it, I guess. The other big trade, Orlando and Denver. Aaron Gordon, Gary Clark to Denver. Orlando picks up Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a protected 2025 first-round pick, which I think is top 4 protected, if I'm not mistaken. So Aaron Gordon, who apparently has been on the market for 3 years, and his name kept popping up, and everyone's like, oh, is he available? Yeah. No, he's not. Yeah, no, he's not. He's gone now. I think Denver is kind of going all in as well, based on some of their moves they made. How good does this make Denver, or are they pretty much the same team they were when they woke up this morning?
No, this makes Denver a little bit better. It puts them back to where they were last year. I think they're a Western Conference finalist. And if Gordon has anything left, if he could bring anything to the table, what I like about this deal the most, they didn't give him Michael Porter Jr. Like, first of all, how did all these teams get better without giving up anything?
That's the market. I don't know what's it's got to be it. Because listen, I feel like Orlando is in panic mode and when to unload. Gary Clark has a crazy contract, and they just said, "Okay, we'll take it." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Real quick, shout out to Terrence Ross who put the
I'm the captain now.
I'm the captain now on Twitter. Hilarious.
I was trying to figure out how to put that so I could show that on screen, but I can't. I'm still learning how to use this equipment. It was hilarious. But if Terrence Ross is your captain, God bless you. have mercy on your soul, because that man is not a captain. I think Aaron Gordon has 14, about 15 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 4 assists a game. His field goal percentage is a little low for me, 44%. He's starting to shoot threes, which is scary for me because Aaron Gordon should not be just jacking up threes. And he started turning into Brook Lopez about a month ago and just standing up beyond 3-point line. I was like, there he goes again. But I think with this team, you match him up with you put him in that lineup with Jokic and Jamal Murray. I think you have a guy who can give you 15, maybe 20 points a game, grab 8, 9 rebounds, and give you some size. And he's a good defender. I think that's the key to this. He's a good defender in that Western Conference. When you need defenders, especially when we talk about the Lakers, you need guys that can defend. And Aaron Gordon's that guy.
A good friend of mine brought up a good point to me, and I'm going to ask you the same question. Crunch time. Who you playing, Gordon or Millsap?
Gordon. Gordon. I don't want to say he is. Gordon could be what Millsap was
back in Atlanta.
Yeah, about 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
If like plus, last 4 minutes, you want young legs, you want guys who can jump, you want guys who's going to create some trouble. Millsap's not that guy, not anymore at least. If he was with Atlanta, I would say that, but he's not that guy anymore. Okay. That is a good. Well, see, now I'm going back on what I said because you want experience too. Aaron Gordon doesn't have a lot of experience, especially in crunch time, especially in big games. And Denver's playing a lot of big games in that Western Conference. So now I don't know now. Who would you play?
I think I went with Millsap, but now you convinced me I might go with the front young legs.
Wait, so I just convinced you to Gordon, and I just talked my way out of it now.
Only because you figure out who else they're going to match up against. So I think it'll work in their favor.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I got to look at this is where NBA basketball reference comes in. This is where I can start looking at numbers and figuring things out now.
And while you ponder on that question, my other hot take: Utah is not coming to the Western Conference Finals. Utah's not getting out the second round. I think Denver's better. I think
you mean you weren't impressed with their great win last night over the Nets, who were missing everybody?
No, it's Utah. Just not impressed.
Are you saying Matt Thomas is not going to be the missing piece to their championship run?
I mean, he might help them get out of a 1-0 hold in the first round. That's about it. But I'm selling my Utah stock. I don't know why. I'm just not impressed with them. Yeah,
I'm not either. I'm really not.
I feel like all right, now we're seeing the big boys of the Western Conference step up and making their moves to ascend through the rankings. And I think Denver, Portland, and the 2 LA teams, no matter which order you put them in, are still better than the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, and they, like you said, they really didn't make any moves to really get better. Even in offseason, they really didn't do a lot. I feel like none of their moves really shook the world and said, oh my God, Utah's going to be a competitor. They're like, okay, well, they re-signed Gobert to a ridiculous, crazy contract they shouldn't have got. You had to max out Donovan Mitchell because Mitchell's that guy. So you maxed out the one guy you should have, and then you maxed out the other guy that you should not have, which ties up your money for about next 3-4 years. So I don't see what Utah's doing. I don't see the point. Like I said, second round, I totally see it. They look good last night, but when they're playing like Timothy Owabo-Cabarrot and like Tyler Johnson getting like 30 minutes, we'll look good in the starting lineup at that point.
Yep.
One thing I'll talk about, LaMarcus Aldridge completed his buyout to leave San Antonio. He's going to be a free agent. Drummond was not traded. Drummond might be another buyout situation. LaMarcus Aldridge hasn't played in weeks. Blake Griffin didn't play for weeks before he got traded to the Nets, or actually signed with the Nets because he was brought out too.
Yep.
Should there be some changes to this whole system? Because I feel like Someone's going to get LaMarcus Aldridge, Lakers. Someone's going to get Drummond, Brooklyn. And it feels like something feels unfair about this whole thing. Guys being brought out, guys being sat, looking for perfect trades. Something about this whole thing just seems very unfair for 96% of the NBA.
I think it's the way it is. They're going to keep it. There's always going to be a buyout market. There's always going to be a team trying to get out of, the Joakim Noahs of the world. And now it's just the Drummonds and everyone else. It's a sick cycle that we have to endure. But, that's how it is.
Well, when you say Joakim Noah, and I feel like the Knicks bought him out because he was awful. He was just a shell. But the problem now is you're getting players like an Andre Drummond, who, if you pick him up, he's a guaranteed 15 rebounds a game. If you sign LaMarcus Aldridge, that's 15 and 10. Blake Griffin, we'll get to him in a second. I don't think he's anything left. But I feel like now you're not buying guys out because they have nothing left. You're buying out because you want from under the contract, which sets up these other teams who, like we talked about on Saturday, don't even really need anybody. They don't need any of these guys.
Nobody. But
they're going to make the move anyway. It's just, you look at teams like Memphis. If Memphis is in competition, I'm pretty sure Andre Drummond or LaMarcus Aldridge isn't going to Memphis if they had their choice.
Right.
Everybody want to run to the Lakers. Everybody wants to run to the Nets. Everybody's going to run to Miami, let's say. I just feel like it kind of undercuts a lot of the league when these guys are just like, well, I want to, and they have their pick and they should, but it just doesn't feel right.
That's something you think they'll ever address that in the next collective bargaining?
I feel like they have to. I really do feel like that they kind of look at it, but listen, you give them teams are going to do what they need to do.
Right.
But there needs to be some more oversight on what they do. If that makes sense. I feel like it's the Wild West right now, and it needs to stop.
I agree. But, they got to make their money. The players got to get paid. They got to get bought out. What we going to do? And
all that debt. I mean, like, we're still paying Joakim Noah. I'm like, God, I think we still paying him like $6 million.
Damn.
I think this is the last year. I think this is the last year of that dead money. It's still crazy. Brooklyn didn't make a move yet. What are your thoughts on Blake Griffin? Because I saw him play his first game back, and I saw him the other night in Portland. I don't know what he brings to this team besides a big body at this point.
That's pretty much it. And I feel like Green's playing time will be safe once KD comes back. He won't have to be worried about losing minutes to Blake. I just think it was one of those, situations where they got Blake, but they really didn't need him. And you kind of see it now why it didn't work in Detroit. He has nothing left in the tank, like you said. And I feel like they would have been better off letting him go somewhere else, but they got him. He's extra body they could throw at AD if they meet to the finals to see the Lakers. But other than that, I will play I'll play Green a lot more minutes than even Blake Griffin.
Well, not even Jeff Green. Nicholas Claxton is like DeAndre Jordan 2.0 from 10 years ago. He literally rebounds, plays defense, and catches alleys all day. That's all he does. That's his job. So I think when Durant comes back, I feel like you have an issue because you have Nicholas Claxton. We talked about young legs before. Young legs, plays hard, right? Mm-hmm. He's playing a lot of minutes right now, getting a lot of experience. He's been with the team for 2 years. Are you going to cut his minutes in favor of giving Blake those minutes? I feel like there's the rich getting richer and the rich is buying things they don't need. And now Drummond is going to be probably bought out. So now he might go to Brooklyn. So now you got another big body that you really probably don't need either, which cuts in, like you said, Uncle Jeff Green takes his time. It cuts into Claxton's time. I feel like they just get these bodies and it just doesn't make any sense. Besides, like you said on Saturday, keeping them away from other people.
That's all it is. Philly, you want him? Nope, you're not going to get him. Lakers, you want him? You're not going to get him. Yeah, that's pretty much all the Nets are doing. They're playing defense offensively, ironically.
Yeah, and honestly, you're not helping the team because all you're doing is creating this ridiculous rotation that you're constantly changing the entire season, knowing that when Durant and Kyrie and Harden's back, your rotation literally goes from 11 to like 9. And then what? Because you don't have any cohesion because you've been playing all these different lineups, all these different rotations. How much, and it's a short season, how much time will Durant and Harden and Kyrie and Blake and Claxton and DeAndre Jordan, even though he should not be playing at all? I don't know why DeAndre Jordan's still getting minutes. Can you build that cohesion, especially with Durant? I don't know when he's coming back. I don't know what that deal is with that hamstring, but there's going to be a cohesion problem at the end of the season going to the playoffs with Brooklyn.
Yeah, and this is where I think they might be in trouble because they play a team like Miami who has the shooters to go toe for toe with you. You know they're going to get their act together and their chemistry is going to be A1 probably by next week. So I think the Nets are a little trouble. And you're right. I think KD's hamstring is a lot worse than they're letting on.
Yeah, I know. Stephen A mentioned something about him and AD being out this long, and I didn't. We have a Stephen A clip later. I didn't hear this whole rant about why he feels like suspicious because he gets on that shit sometimes. But besides that, the other trade I want to talk about, and it's about the Bulls. We talked about the Bulls earlier. Nikola Vucevic, I always mispronounce his name, trades Chicago. All right, so Vucevic and Al-Farouq Amino goes to Chicago in exchange for Wendell Carter, Otto Porter, and 2 first-round draft picks in 2021 and 2023. Now, here's my question. I want to start with Chicago first. How good does this make Chicago in the East? Because, Vucevic is good. He's a good player. He's a 29 guy. You add him with Levine, you add him with Lauri Markkanen. You have a 3. That's your big 3 in Chicago. How good could they be with this big 3 they kind of put together here?
They could be good. I actually think this move kind of assures them for next season and the season after that. I feel like now they're too far in a hole to be to like top 5 or top 4. But I can see them as a 6th seed in the East right now. But next year, they're going to be so much better. And let them get their time to come together and get everything working on the chemistry. They're going to be a problem next year. Right now, I say the ceiling for them is like a 6th seed. They're going to be the best pick and pop team in the East. I think they're going to run that give and go like Stockton and Malone. So I think they're going to be a problem.
So I think Lauri Markkanen's contract's up this year, or is it an option year? I got to double check that real fast.
Yeah, it's probably an option year.
I think, like you said, I think this is set up for next year. I think this is one of those things where they're like, okay, we're going to rebuild, but we can bring this guy in who's at, I think he's like 29 or 30, who's really good, hitting his prime, has that centerpiece with Levine, Markkanen if he stays, but then too, like you said, maybe you don't re-sign Markkanen. They don't have a lot of they have a lot of money next year. Like they don't spend a lot of cash at all. I think $69 million in salary for next season.
Yep. So
they have a lot of money. They bring on Vucevic's contract, but Levine signed through next season. That is Young, who I forgot was still there. He's still there.
In the league. Wow.
We forgot he was in the league. He's quiet. He's really quiet. Besides that, there's a lot of room for improvement here. Ryan Arcidiacono, Denzel Valentine, Garrett Temple, who I forgot was still in the league, Cody White, Markkanen's option here, like you said. They need help, and I feel like if you have those 3 and you keep Markkanen, Levine, Markkanen, Vucevic, and you get surrounding other guys, their supporting cast right now is awful. Like Satoransky plays like 25, 30 minutes a game. He shouldn't be getting that much burn at all. I think this could be a good team for the future. I think the Bulls might have kind of figured out how to do it now. It took forever, but I think they kind of figured it out now.
I agree. And boy, doesn't the injury with Charlotte, with LaMelo kind of really put the stinker on their season? Because I feel like the Hornets are now the team that's going to be the team out and look into the playing game. I think they're going to come down and Chicago's going up.
Talking about teams going down, Orlando, like you said, they someone made a good point. I can't remember who said it. Can you rebuild in the middle of an actual rebuild? Because that's what's happening right now.
We're gonna find out. They're gonna be a bottom feed. Shout out to WWE because they got kicked out of the Amway Arena. they'll be back sooner than later. There will be no playoffs in Orlando anytime soon, so they'll be back there sooner or later. But I think the Magic, it's to try to get a top 5 pick. They said this draft is going to be top heavy, and that's what you want to do. You want to put yourself in that position, and I think doing these moves kind of help you do that.
So here's my issue with Orlando. Like we said, they're in a rebuild now, right? They pick up Markelle Fultz. They have Aaron Gordon, Vucevic, Fournier. He was expiring contract. It's probably a perfect time to get rid of him because it's expiring, get him out.
Mm-hmm.
But then they draft Mo Bamba, who should not have been drafted that high, which was a total mistake. And then you pick up all these random Michael Carter Williams. They got Mozgov. You don't trade Jonathan Isaac, who honestly, I don't think there's enough there under they signed to a crazy contract, an extension. I don't see it with Jonathan Isaac at all. I feel like you messed up drafting Isaac. You messed up with Mo Bamba. And I feel like that set the team back at least 3-4 years with those two picks. Yeah. So now you trade everybody away and you start from scratch again. Have they been good since Shaq and Penny?
They had that little run with Dwight in his prime when he surrounded him with shooters, which was smart. But that was it. But other than that, yeah.
It's like they make a point. You're in the middle of a rebuild, and you're going to rebuild again. That's essentially what you're doing right now. You're going to start all over again. Like, you know what? No, we're all over it. It's just I feel bad for Orlando because they just don't have a team, and they've had a team. Even that run they had with Dwight, I feel like that was just the aberration. Because I'm sorry, Rashad Lewis was way too good at that point in his life. Like he's not that good. He had a really good patch in those playoffs, and that was it. He was done. And Hedo Turkoglu was killing it. He was not that good either. They just hit a really good point. I want to talk about we talk about the Knicks, and we got to talk about James Dolan kicking out another fan. There's a fan at the Garden, and Jay, watch your words. I know they G-checked you. A fan was thrown out the Garden for wearing a Fire Dolan shirt, I believe it was.
Yep.
So this has happened before, right? Dolan has rabbit ears and hears everything, sees everything. He kicked out Charles Oakley, for God's sakes. Nick Legend. And he kicked out a fan for wearing that. And needless to say, our boy Stephen A. Smith had a lot to say about it. And here's what Stephen A. had to say about Dolan being Dolan.
I'm so disgusted, I don't even know where to begin. Thank God we don't have much time because I'm scared of what I would say today. Max Kellerman, what did I just say 2 weeks ago about the Knicks? I said, Leon Rose, hell of a job. He's doing a hell of a job. Worldwide West, William Wesley, helping change the culture along with my man Scott Perry, the GM. Tom Thibodeau, they are changing the culture. They are a 500 team. If the playoffs were to begin today, they would be in it. And what does this? I said, as long as this man just stays the hell out of the way. And what does he do? Once again, the child that is supposed to be a grown man that owns the New York Knicks steals headlines from the basketball team because of his petulance and his thin skin. It is embarrassing. It is just it ticks me off so bad because once again, here he is getting in the way. James Dolan doesn't realize that when he does stuff like that, it makes it harder for Leon Rose and William Wesley and others to do their jobs because you have to sell the New York Knicks as an attractive commodity because they have a grown man as an owner who's a child. He will not grow up. So what? I don't recall Dolan throwing out a whole bunch of people when numerous coaches of his and fans would chant for them to be fired. It wasn't disrespectful then, but since they aiming in your direction, suddenly this is. And by the way,
no profanity.
And by the way,
nothing like that.
Doesn't it make Charles Oakley even that much more believable about how he said he wasn't really saying much to James Dolan, but Joe Dolan took it that way? This is the problem. A national embarrassment. Want to know why
KD and James Harden and Kyrie are in Brooklyn? I give you Jim Dolan.
All anybody's asked for him to stay the hell out of the way and let the basketball team do what it's.
All right, so we have a statement from MSG. Spokesperson says, our policy is and will continue to be that if you are disrespectful to anyone in our venues, we will ask you to leave. A security guard who whose face is not shown in the video, said this would be offensive in this arena. This would be offensive information. We're asking you kindly if you would like to cover it up, and we're offering you a free shirt to do so. And it continues. The fan was explaining what the situation, why you're getting kicked out. The security guard said, "It is within your rights, but not in this arena because this is a private arena. It is owned by the individual. We get to stipulate here. We are not the government. This is not a freedom of speech situation. We get to determine what is offensive. We don't allow offensive signs. We don't allow offensive material. In our eyes, we would consider this to be offensive." This comes after Patrick Ewing was pretty much assaulted with "Where's your ID?" You have the Charles Oakley situation. Spike Lee coming in through the media entrance, which I don't have an issue with because Spike Lee. What do you got to say about this? And choose your words wisely.
But isn't it ironic that this is happening with limited capacity at the Garden? That's the scary part to me. Whereas, one, you have to go through all this COVID protocol. You got to get tested. You got to get vaccinated. Then you got to come into the house of the Dolans, and you wear a shirt, whatever. It could be tuck in cheek. It's not that serious. What are we doing here? You know what? I wish that fan was a first responder. I wish it was a doctor. I wish it was a nurse, and he did that too. And it would put so much egg on his face. But it's not that serious. We don't need to be kicking out fans, because I know I could go to Yankee Stadium and I could wear the Yankee Suck shirt, and I would not have no problem there. Maybe I have problems outside the stadium, but I wouldn't have no problems in the stadium.
Oh, yeah, you're getting jacked up. You wear that shirt. It's happening. Well, here's the thing, and this is I'm not even surprised that this happened.
I'm not surprised
at all. I'm not surprised. The shirt said Ban Dolan. I think it said Fire Dolan. It's Ban Dolan. Dolan obviously has an issue with criticism. We know this. Now, Knick fans, we will criticize you to your face. We don't care. We have no qualms about making sure that you suck. We will tell you.
Apparently, even in your house.
In your house. But here's the thing. And I know it's a private building. I know they're going to go, it's a private building. And the guy was just wearing a shirt to get a reaction. So what? We're expressing ourselves as fans. You suck. I know the team's doing well. I know the Rangers are doing well. But you, as a person, and I'm looking right into the camera now, you as a person, James Dolan, suck. And we know this. We're well aware of this. Hence, we're saying you suck. Sell the team. It's nothing new. It's not a new idea, not a new concept. You suck. We hate you. We can't stand you as an owner. You are in the depths of hell of owners in the history of sports. There's no owner worse than James Dolan. And we will tell you that. So I don't know why all of a sudden you can't handle the criticism, but it is what it is. Just take it at this point.
Is it fair to say that he's worse than Dan Snyder? Because I feel like they were neck and neck for a while, but I feel like he lapped him a while ago.
Daniel Snyder is only bad because he's a scumbag now, based on what we've heard about it.
There's a difference between a scumbag and an asshole. So yeah,
yes, exactly. Daniel Snyder is the scumbag. James Dolan's an asshole. It was a huge difference. But at some point, I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure Mark Cuban, who sits courtside at every single Mavs game, has heard, "Hey, Cuban, you suck." And he's probably like, "Yeah, okay," because he can take it, because that's part of the job. All right. People might say our show sucks. It is what it is. Our show may suck. Yeah, to you. Okay, cool. I'll take that criticism and I will keep it going. We got a entry into the worst owner, Donald Sterling. Although he's not an active owner.
He's not. I mean, he was a cheap owner, but he's also a scumbag.
Yeah, he's a scumbag. I think so. Okay, so worst owners. I think we almost have to put it into columns. So we'll have scumbags and then we have assholes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Snyder, Donald Sterling, the Secaucus 7 who owned the Nets in the 90s that just gave away Derek Coleman, Kenny Anderson. Mm-hmm. I think that's on the asshole side. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw the Wilpons in there for not giving us a winner. But...
Oh my! I think the Wilpons can go in both. We can put them in both scumbag and asshole column. Then trying to think. Phoenix Suns owner currently.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
He's an asshole. I hate the Yankees, but Steinbrenner's done some really good things for people.
Yeah.
So I can't put him in either one. I can't think of a really bad owner. I can't think of like a really, really reckless bet.
NBA. I mean, it's got to be just Dolan. No one. There's no close second.
I'm going down the whole league. There's no. I mean, the
Nets
Maloof brothers,
yeah,
who owned Sacramento for a hot minute, they were scumbags.
But the new owners are doing good things up there.
I mean, I don't know that. I don't. Well, here's the thing with Sacramento. I don't know who really owns the team anymore because I feel like the guy who actually has majority ownership apparently really doesn't have. I think there's a fight about the ownership thing. I don't know. I used to write about it years ago before they moved because they were about to move to Seattle, and I don't know that whole Sacramento thing. And all the sports, I think Dolan literally might be. There's no other. Actually, the Panthers owner, who's not the owner anymore, Carolina Panthers.
Oh yeah, but Dolan's still worse than him.
Yeah, I think Dolan's still top of the list. I think
that's the thing about Dolan. He's not a racist. He loves his brothers. He's just an idiot.
Bob McNair from the Texans, who could be manipulating the situation right now. I'm not gonna get into that.
Oh, he's like, oh, you want to leave? Not before I give you these parting shots.
Yeah. So he can avoid his contract too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah, Dolan's really bad. March Madness update. Brackets. I'm just gonna throw it here. They're gone.
Yep.
It's over. Like I still have Gonzaga winning it all, but other than that, I don't care anymore. Gonzaga's got to win it for me now. I will say this, and I want to get your thoughts. Michigan looks really, really good, and they're scary good.
They're coming together.
Do you think they're a Final Four team?
I think they are. With the rest of the field, I think they are.
Yeah, I don't really see. When we talked about this on our last show, there's not a team that's like, oh my God, they're really, really good. I think Gonzaga is kind of proving their point.
Mm-hmm.
I think Michigan's in that range. Those upsets with like Oral Roberts and Loyola Chicago, who's not really upset because we know who they are now. Again with this. There's not a team that I'm like, oh my God, that's it. That's perfect. I think besides Gonzaga, I'm going to put Michigan on there too. It's still kind of wide open to see who gets to the championship game.
Yeah, I agree. But I definitely think Gonzaga, it's their. We said it from the beginning. It's their tournament to lose. They could be tested this weekend, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see because Oral Roberts has his name is I think Abrams, who's the leading scorer in the nation. He's really good. He scored over 20 points these first couple of games. I do want to mention. I'll give a shout out to my father, and I want to get your thought on this too. When Georgetown won the Big East, I had a quick thought, and my dad did it. And I was like, all those old school Big East heads, when they saw Georgetown win the Big East this year, went all in with Georgetown. And then they got smoked. Did you have the same thought? Like, all those old school Big East guys, you'd be like, oh, Georgetown, done. They're going to win it all in honor of John Thompson. Did you see that happening?
I definitely saw them getting smoked happening.
That's what I didn't see them advancing, but I definitely saw them getting smoked and not making it out the first round.
Yep.
Because they shouldn't have been there. Big shout out to Rutgers. They were eliminated, but listen, they should have won that game against Houston. There's no reason that they ran like a four corners offense with like 2.5 minutes left against Houston when they're up by 2. That was it coaching or was it players? I feel like it was more coaching when the coach was like, hey, slow it down and let's go 4 corners.
Yeah, definitely think it was a bad play it was definitely bad coaching towards the end. It was one of those things they wanted to slow it down, but it backfired on them. And I think it was a good loss in terms of like they weren't supposed to advance. They gave arguably maybe the third best team or second best team left in the tournament a run for the money. And it's building blocks and they'll learn from this.
Syracuse continues on. They play Houston next. Buddy Boeheim making his dad proud. I still hate Jim Boeheim, but I do have to give Syracuse credit because, when the season started, they were average. They looked like an average team.
Average team, yeah.
And I think, I don't want to not give Syracuse the credit that they deserve, but we talked about how Georgia Tech got screwed in seeding. I feel like Syracuse really benefited at the end of the year
absolutely
with the really crappy ACC this year.
Totally agree. And do I think they could win this game? Absolutely not. I think they're gonna get smoked.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see Buddy Boeheim dropping 30 again. I just don't see it. UCLA, Alabama. UCLA shocking me. We talked about Michigan. Florida State is going to be a banger.
That's going to be the best game of the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that because they both play very physical, but they have good shooters. They got the Wagner brother in Michigan. That's my guy. I love the Wagner family. They're my guys. They're going to be hitting each other and knocking each other down. It's going to be a great game to watch. Arkansas, Oral Roberts. I could see Oral Roberts winning this game. I think momentum on this side, and I think we can see an Oral Roberts Loyola Chicago in the Final Four, which would blow everything up.
That'd be well. If there was ever a year for that to happen, it's this.
We talk about it all the time. If this is a year for something crazy to happen, this will be it. Gonzaga plays Creighton and their weird coach who used the word plantation. USC and Oregon plays, so a lot of basketball. And actually, it's going to be, I want to say, the Sweet 16. It starts on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, which is weird.
That's weird.
Which I'm kind of hyped about it, though. I'm actually kind of excited.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, like some weeknight basketball.
Yeah, weeknight basketball, considering that, still COVID protocol.
Yeah, I can't go nowhere. I got one shot right now. I need the other one. I'm stuck. Talking to Rutgers, and I want to talk about this. Geo Baker from Rutgers and two other players wore shirts with the hashtag not NCAA property on it. And it was a protest against the NCAA's rules against players using their likeness for sponsorship deals. And there was actually talk between Rutgers, Clemson, and I want to get the other team right, and Michigan, of actually delaying their games in protest. And Rutgers, according to Geo Baker, who's the senior guard, he said it was close to happening. They played Clemson first last week. Clemson was part of it. Clemson said, we want to do it, but they were afraid about what the coaches would react to because coaches didn't have any idea about it. If that would have happened and Rutgers delayed their game, Michigan, Isaiah Livers, Iowa's one of Iowa's players, if that would have happened, how big a deal would it have been when one major, two major, maybe three major NCAA games postponed?
That would have been huge because that's never happened. The players have never really been that defiant. Usually it's players that have stopped playing that come back and stir up the pot. So if they had the players do that now, and look at Michigan, if anyone understands what the players are going through in terms of not being property, it's Juwan Howard, who technically by the letter of their law never made it to a Final Four. But Michigan, so he would understand. And they're right. These guys they're not getting compensated all the way. We know how many billions of dollars. The only reason we said it from the beginning, the only reason the tournament's happening is because they lost all that money last year. So it is what it is. I side with the players too. Let them cut their deals. Let them get their YouTube, create a YouTube channel and make some money that way as well. Like the way the NCAA dictates things to these student athletes, is terrible.
So Baker said the only reason that Rutgers, he kind of thought against it because it was Rutgers' first time in a tournament in 30 years, and he didn't want the protest to overshadow the program, which is selfless of him because Rutgers is a forgotten team in this area. So for Rutgers to get the tournament and actually win a game in the tournament was a big deal. So shout out to Geo Baker for thinking like that. But Mark Emmert is meeting with these three players from Michigan, Rutgers, and Iowa after the tournament, which is an issue for them because they said, why are we meeting now? Exactly. Why do we have to wait till after the tournament? So they have an issue with that. Also at NCAA News, they're hiring a law firm to look into why the women's workout room was underfunded, knowing it was their goddamn fault. It was underfunded in the first goddamn place. So you're hiring someone to investigate yourself? I don't understand that.
It's dumb, but this is where we're at with the NCAA. Nothing surprises me.
It boggles the mind, and we talk about tone deafness with this organization, with this not-for-profit organization, how they just don't get things. And would they really think what they did to the ladies wouldn't get out? Like, could they really assume that no one talks?
They assumed that. They assumed the ladies weren't going to talk, and it wouldn't have gotten the traction that it did, but it did.
So the NCAA is hiring a lawyer to look into the situation that they created with the women's basketball tournament in Texas. It's like, okay, so hold on a second. So you, maybe not Mark Emmert, the president of NCAA himself, but your organization made a conscious decision to give the women 8 free weights for an entire hotel.
Crazy.
But give the men like a Gold's Gym in the middle of a Hyatt somewhere. And now you're like, oh, well, we messed up. And they fixed it. Credit to the NCAA, they fixed it.
Uh-huh.
But now you're going to be like, well, we got to investigate why that happened. I'm like, you know why. You don't give a shit about women's basketball.
Yep.
You don't give a shit about women's sports. You barely give a shit about the men's sports. You don't give a shit about the athletes themselves. So we know why it happened. So it's like OJ looking for the killer. Like, nothing really come from it. Same thing. So I don't know. We talk about it and it just irritates because it just keeps happening.
Keeps happening, yeah.
And now the Supreme Court's going to hear this case about whether players should be paid, and you have a Supreme Court that's very, very conservative who are going to be like, well, they get a scholarship, so it's not enough. And we hear that argument again. And then people are like, well, they're about free market. Conservatives are free market, so they might side with the players. The players should make some money. But I don't see the Supreme Court had this made up right now, siding with a majority African-American collegiate athlete environment and saying, go make that money. They're going to be like, you get a scholarship, you get 3 squares a day, and shut up and go play ball.
The only way this will change is if the NCAA and NBA somehow quit their silent partnership in terms of like that whole one and done rule. Like if they eliminate that one and done, you're gonna have players either jump into the NBA or they're just gonna strictly go to the G League.
Which kind of worked this year. I know the Ignite team didn't do well at the end, but those guys could get drafted, and now they got experience against, and not just young rookies. Like there were some vets in that league this year that were like just bowling these guys around. So I think it helps. But you're definitely going to see that. I think that one and done rule is done the next collective bargaining agreement, and I think that's when the floodgates open.
Yep.
And players are like, I'm not going there. I'm going straight to the NBA, or like you said, go to the G League. Ignite worked out. It worked completely. Real quick, wrestling talk. Edge versus Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan.
WrestleMania 30, run it back. Let's go.
Why? Like, is it me or did they just totally botch this Edge thing? And Edge just seems very unlikable, and they had to put Daniel Bryan in to make the match good for fans.
That's exactly what happened. Edge became Batista 2.0. Whereas, like, we wanted to cheer him on and root for him, but, like, wait a minute. He won the Royal Rumble? Wait a minute. He's going to fight Roman Reigns when we actually like Roman Reigns right now? We're like, this is going to be the first WrestleMania he's going to be cheered? Yeah, I totally see why they interjected Daniel Bryan, which I think kind of saves this match a little bit.
But I almost feel like if the outcome is not Daniel Bryan winning the title, there could be a backlash.
I think if the outcome is Roman keeping the title, but not pinning Edge, but pinning Daniel Bryan, that could still be a good outcome.
Well, I feel like that's why Daniel Bryan's in the match to eat the pin.
Yep,
that's the only reason they put him in, to eat the pin. So Edge looks strong, right? Roman looks strong. So even if Edge wins, Edge is going to pin Daniel Bryan. Roman Reigns wins, he pins. So that keeps them both strong. And Daniel Bryan, who honestly has been losing for 2 months straight, apparently. I don't watch SmackDown. I don't watch Raw or SmackDown anymore. I'm just out of it completely. But apparently, from what I read results, he loses like every week. So I'm like, he loses every single week and then gets a title shot and then gets interjected into the main event. This is crazy. The other thing, Sasha versus Bianca Belair, I don't care about it anymore because this build has been terrible. Who the hell is Reginald?
Yeah.
Who the hell is this dude?
You know what's funny you say that, because I feel the same way, and the way they interjected Rhea Ripley against Asuka, I'm kind of excited for that.
That I'm excited about. That I care about. I'm happy. I don't want this one sound really bad. I'm happy Charlotte is out and Charlotte got COVID-19. I don't want to say I'm happy she got COVID, but in a way, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because
Agreed.
you push Rhea to the front, and now you have a match that people actually want to see. If it was Asuka Charlotte, I'd be like, nope, gonna turn it off. Or that's when I go like change a diaper and go to the bathroom. Like that's not I'm gonna sit and watch that match. So it's kind of a weird blessing. I don't want to say I'm happy she got COVID, but it kind of worked out in the end for him.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
And then in NXT, I caught the end of NXT last night with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. I'm hyped for that match. It's like an unsanctioned, empty arena. I'm like, I'm in. Let's go.
That should be good. It's gonna be a lot of wrestling in 2 weeks. That Thursday, that Wednesday, straight to what next Wednesday? Oh my God, 7 days.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be nuts. And AEW's having like a house show WrestleMania weekend apparently. Like, what is happening?
You might as well. You're in Jacksonville. You're in Florida too. Might as well.
Yeah, and you're outside. Listen, you're outside. You're still following the rules. Yeah, still outside. Yep. Jason's always great show, brother.
Likewise.
So the podcast of this show, the audio part, will be up on Spotify and iTunes tomorrow afternoon. We will be back next Thursday night at 8 p.m. to talk about who advanced to the Final Four. And hopefully my bracket still has Gonzaga winning because it's gone. It's on the floor right now. So for Jason Corden, I'm Kahlil Thomas. Thank you for listening to the Box Out here on the Just Hoop Talk YouTube channel. We'll see you next Thursday night, 8 p.m. Peace.
Peace.